Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
My partner mentioned she was heading out for a work-related journey to another city over the weekend. A couple of days on, my pal faced a household crisis, and I wound up handling the final food delivery from his shift for him. When the entrance swung wide at a location that seemed way too recognizable right here in town, there she was, dressed in his top. She went by Grace. We'd been a couple for 2 years, sharing my place for the past 12 months. Outwardly, everything appeared fine. Yet deep down, there was this ongoing wave of unease around her. This sense that I was perpetually measured against some unseen benchmark. She fixated on looks, on the proper crowd, the ideal spots to eat, the perfect. All of it. I constantly sensed I was merely a piece in the flawless existence she aimed to construct, not a true companion. In recent months, she'd grown aloof, forever glued to her device, sporting a small grin that excluded me. Last Thursday, she arrived home with major updates. Her firm was dispatching her to an obligatory executive getaway. It was located in a town roughly 3 hours distant, and she'd be absent from Friday dawn till Sunday evening. She portrayed it as a significant opportunity, a key advancement in her profession. She displayed the pamphlet for the venue, an upscale spot featuring golf areas and a wellness center. It all looked authentic. Thus, I acted the encouraging partner. I assisted with her luggage, wished her an enjoyable stay, and embraced her farewell that Friday morning as she rolled her case out. The home felt hushed and vacant once she departed. A strange sensation gnawed at my stomach, a subtle buzz of doubt I couldn't pinpoint, but I convinced myself it was mere overthinking. I lacked any grounds to doubt her, correct? I passed Friday evening unwinding, viewing a film, savoring the solitude. Come Saturday, I pondered my plans when my closest buddy, Dave, rang. Dave holds a standard daytime job weekdays, but he handles Uber Eats on weekends to clear his college debts quicker. He was midway through his rounds and utterly bored. He inquired if I'd join him for a bit, simply to chat and provide company. With no better options, I consented. It surpassed lounging in my silent home, pondering Grace's work excursion. We cruised around for the following hours, blasting tunes and bantering as usual. It was an entirely ordinary, unremarkable Saturday midday. We approached our concluding drop-off during a supper surge when Dave's phone buzzed. It was his sibling. His mother had tripped and tumbled, and they were en route to the hospital. It wasn't fatal, but she suffered greatly, and he had to rush there immediately. He panicked right away. He halted the vehicle, his complexion ashen. "Dude, I must leave," he uttered, trembling slightly. "But this final package remains. The buyer has awaited it. I can't simply abort it." He gazed at me, his gaze imploring. "Would you mind doing me a massive solid and deliver this? The spot is just about 10 minutes away. I'll be in your debt hugely." "Sure thing, bro," I replied without hesitation. "Forget about it. Head to your mom." He expressed gratitude, exited the car, and dashed off to hail a cab. I shifted to the driver's side of his worn-out car, the aroma of countless meals lingering. I snatched his device. He uses 2 phones, one dedicated to Uber Eats. Checked the app and entered the location into my navigation. The order name was simply Alex. The destination was a fresh skyscraper condo downtown, one of those sleek glass structures completed recently. I knew the road. It wasn't distant from my workplace. I assumed it'd be a swift handover. I located the building, parked improperly briefly, and took the sealed sack from the adjacent seat. The front desk attendant directed me to the lifts, and I ascended to the 27th level. I reached the unit and pressed the buzzer. Music echoed from within. I lingered there momentarily, adjusting the package, prepared for the courteous exchange, and returned to Dave's vehicle. The door flew open and my reality skewed. It was Grace. My own Grace. The woman meant to be 3 hours off at an executive seminar. She wore a guy's large, creased, blue dress shirt. It was undone sufficiently to reveal she wore zilch beneath. Her locks were disheveled, the type from spending the day lounging in bed. For an instant, she failed to identify me. She merely perceived a courier. Then her gaze sharpened, and her complexion paled. In the background, a man strolled into view, bare-chested, drying his damp hair with a cloth. He was lanky, fit, with an arrogant expression. I glimpsed him a time or two in photos she'd shared. It was Alex, her university pal, whom she'd always labeled as sibling-like. The one I'd encountered fleetingly at a gathering a year prior and immediately detested. He'd scarcely noted my presence. The trio of US remained rooted, locked in a stunned and treacherous standoff. But Grace's astonishment shifted to something different initially, something repulsive. Her expression contorted, not with remorse, but revulsion. Toward me. "What on earth are you doing here?" she whispered fiercely. "Why are you handling food deliveries? I'm utterly embarrassed by you." And in that moment, something within me fractured. The pain, the bewilderment, it all incinerated in a burst of searing fury. I glanced from her, clad in another fellow's garment, to the sack in my grasp, to the conceited, semi-nude man behind her. Embarrassed by me? I released the food package. It struck the stone floor of the corridor with a damp smack. Embarrassed by me? I bellowed, allowing my tone to resound in the serene passage. "You're meant to be at a professional seminar, you deceitful, unfaithful scum." Alex, the sibling figure, finally chimed in, advancing. "Hey, hold up, dude. Who are you?" he stated, placing a shielding palm on Grace's limb. I chuckled, a bitter, joyless noise. "I'm her partner. The man she resides with in the home you've likely been informed about." "Who the heck are you?" Alex's arrogant look faded into perplexity. He peered down at Grace, his hold on her arm firming. "Partner? What's he referring to? You claimed you ended things with your former guy ages ago. You said he was a nutcase who refused to back off." He glanced back at me, a spark of awareness in his gaze. "Hang on, you're Jake? She mentioned you were pursuing her." The universe halted its whirl and snapped into stark, harsh clarity. The deceptions ran deeper than I'd envisioned. I wasn't merely the oblivious partner. I was the deranged pursuer X in the tale she fed him. I advanced a pace toward them. "So I'm the deranged former now?" I remarked, maintaining a subdued tone to convey seriousness. "Was that on your mind when you charged my card for your trip to the seminar? Was that your thought when you declared your affection before departing?" Grace began to falter, her eyes flitting between us. It's not as it appears." "Oh, it appears precisely as it is," Alex yelled, pivoting toward her. He felt deceived as well, and his wrath matched mine. "You've been manipulating me throughout, utilizing my place, assuring me you were unattached, making me believe we were building something genuine, while you had a cohabiting partner. What's your problem?" She began weeping then, the typical fallback tactic. "I was mixed up," she wailed, glancing from me to him. "I didn't know how to proceed. I care for you both." "You care for no one except yourself," I retorted. I'd never experienced such intense loathing for another person. The clash was chaotic, noisy, and starkly exposed in that pristine corridor. Likely, nearby doors were ajar as residents eavesdropped. I was indifferent. Eventually, her sobs subsided, supplanted by frantic alarm. She regarded us both, her cheeks marked with eyeliner. "Where can I stay now?" she whined, the ultimate plea of someone depleted of choices and anticipating another's solution. I eyed her, clad in another man's attire, the epitome of her own fraud. "I don't give a damn," I stated bluntly, "but you have till midday tomorrow to remove every item of yours from my home. If it's still there, it'll hit the street." She directed her optimistic, watery eyes to Alex. He merely shook his head in revulsion. "You're absolutely not remaining here," he declared. "I want you gone from my place." Immediately, he extended behind, seized her bag from a surface, and hurled it into the corridor. Then he eyed me, then her, and banged the door, abandoning her solo amid her fabrications. I didn't linger to observe the consequences. I simply pivoted and departed, leaving her amid the debris she'd forged. I avoided glancing rearward. The fury persisted, but it yielded to a stark resolve. This wasn't merely a split. It was a removal. I returned to Dave's vehicle, my limbs quivering from the rush. I contacted him, relayed the events. He was stunned. He instructed me to use his car, return home, and handle necessities. Upon arriving at my place, I first altered the locks. By 10 that night, each door mechanism was fresh. Her key became worthless scrap. Then I commenced gathering. But I wasn't gentle. I skipped her elegant cases. I fetched from the storage the supply of sturdy dark garbage sacks. I extracted them and began erasing her presence from my existence. Garments, footwear, cosmetics, volumes, all entered the sacks. I operated mechanically, driven by a frigid, systematic anger. By 2 in the morning, her closet section was vacant. Her compartments were empty. The bath surface cleared of her myriad containers and pots. It seemed she'd never existed there. I stacked all 30-odd sacks by the entry. Her communications and messages initiated around 9 that night. A ceaseless flood of urgent notes. I ignored everyone. I permitted my device to vibrate into quiet. Then the emails arrived. Extended, wandering appeals and charges. I erased them unread. She appeared at the home near midnight as I secured the final sack. My entry camera alerted my phone. I viewed the stream as she attempted her key, her bewilderment escalating to frenzy, then outrage. She commenced hammering the door, yelling my name. I merely reclined on my sofa in darkness, observing the mute spectacle of her collapse. After 20 minutes, she relented and collapsed in the passage, a beaten mound. That's when I dispatched her one message. Your belongings are bundled. They'll be on the pavement outside the structure at 8 a.m. tomorrow. A vehicle is set to remove any leftover items at 12:05 p.m. show up or not. It's irrelevant to me. Then I restricted her contact. Next day, precisely at 8 a.m., I began transporting the sacks via the utility lift. It required 4 rounds. I heaped them on the walkway, a modest pile of black material symbolizing 2 years of my existence. I ascended and observed from my pain. Shortly past 9, a vehicle arrived. It was her closest pal Megan, someone I'd never fully believed. Grace emerged from the rider's side. She appeared sleepless. They both stared at the heap of garbage sacks in dismay. It consumed them almost 60 minutes to cram everything into Megan's compact SUV, a task involving much furious pushing and whispered oaths. As they departed, I experienced zilch. No sorrow, no remorse, merely void. The true conflict, naturally, commenced days later. The narrative she and Megan propagated was a work of art in fabrication. In their rendition, I was the villain. I'd behaved possessively and domineering for months. I'd somehow located her at her pal's place where she sought refuge from me, and then I'd arrived in a furious outburst, attacked her, and ejected her with only her current attire. I began receiving messages from shared acquaintances seeking my version. I realized a basic rejection wouldn't suffice. I required evidence. And then, as if heaven sent, I received a message from an unfamiliar number. It was Alex. His note was concise and direct. Hey dude, it's Alex. Apologies for everything. Grace is nuts. She's claiming you assaulted us both. That's false and you know it. I possess all her messages from recent months where she insisted she was unattached and her mad ex was bothering her. If you need my support, I'll provide it. This lady is poisonous. That was the key. That was the decisive strike. I captured an image of his message. I sent it with a brief single-line clarification from me to our whole circle of shared friends. For those who've encountered Grace's tale, here's the man she was with in his words. She deceived all. The group atmosphere changed nearly instantly. The inquiries ceased. The blames became notes of backing for me. Grace's defamation effort had been sunk by the individual she required to validate her account. But she persisted. Her relatives entered the fray. Her mom phoned me, shrieking about how I deserted her child during her hardship. I endured her for roughly 30 seconds before interrupting. I didn't shout, just ensured she detected the chill in my tone. Your child is a deceiver and betrayer. She's fortunate I only placed her items on the street. You ought to worry more about the nature of the individual you nurtured. Don't contact me again. I disconnected. The following day, I received a voice message from her dad. It was disjointed, furious, and somewhat menacing. He uttered phrases like, "You'll rue this and you don't realize your opponent." I wasn't intimidated. I merely felt exhausted by it all. I preserved the recording. The ultimate display of her despair occurred a week on. I operate remotely 2 days weekly, and I faced a massive assignment due date with a primary customer. The evening prior to submission, my web connection failed. Completely out. I rebooted the device, inspected wires. Nothing. I contacted my provider, and after 45 minutes waiting, they revealed something that froze my veins. No disruptions in my zone. My account had been terminated that afternoon. When I insisted on who approved it, they said it occurred online, via the account owner's secure details. Secure details that Grace, as a permitted user on my profile, had access to. I'd updated all primary codes, but overlooked the foolish web account. She'd executed it deliberately, a planned disruption to harm my career. I completed my task using my mobile as a link, but I fumed. This had escalated from a disordered separation to deliberate torment. I knew her location. A pal had noted she was bunking on Megan's sofa. Next morning, I drove there. I knocked loudly until Megan answered, appearing shocked. Grace stood rearward, her expression of complacent glee that swiftly faded upon seeing mine. I trembled with rage. "This ends today," I declared. I raised my phone and replayed her dad's menacing recording. Their eyes widened. Then, yesterday evening, my web was oddly terminated the night before a critical work cut off. A sabotage that might have jeopardized my position. I stepped ahead, and they both reflexively retreated. "Here's the plan. You, your pals, and your kin will cease contact with me. Permanently. If I receive one additional call, one more message, or if even my streaming service logs out mysteriously, I'm presenting this recording with the call logs of your pestering and a formal declaration on the web interference to authorities for a protection order. Clear?" They were both ashen, mute. The prospect of legal repercussions hadn't crossed their minds. Grace attempted once more, her tone breaking, tears emerging. "But Jake," I aired. "What about our relationship?" I merely regarded her, the lady I'd once cherished, and sensed only sympathy and repulsion. "There is no relationship," I stated. "You incinerated that when you prepared for a phony work journey." I rotated and left without further comment. I entered my vehicle and headed home. I restricted her contact, Megan's and her parents. I lounged in my serene, tidy home, the quiet a pleasant respite. I served myself a beverage and removed every image of her. It was truly concluded.